Hello everybody, let's talk about tone curves in Lightroom Classic CC. Intro. Before we go to Lightroom, I would like to talk to you about contrast. And contrast is the scale of difference between blacks and whites. So when you have high contrast, you will have bright highlights and dark shadows. On the other hand, when you have a low contrast, you will not have much of a difference between whites and blacks, and your pictures will look muted. Normally when you shoot in RAW, you get flat images so that you can add the proper contrast in post, and this is what we're going to do now with the curves. Okay, my friends, today we're gonna talk about the tone curves, and this is something that I use all the time. Actually, the first thing I do as soon as I open a picture and I'm gonna start editing is using the tone curves. Let's start explaining what is this. This is a square here with a line in the middle. You see in the back there is like some shadows, like looks like mountains. This is exactly the same as the histogram that is over here on the top. So it's telling you what is overexposed or what is underexposed, okay? So this is square, we're gonna divide it in like this vertical line and this horizontal line. When we talk about the horizontal line, actually we're talking about the blacks in this side, in the left side, and the whites in the other side. These are the tones. And this is exactly the same as the histogram. In the left side you have the darks, and in the right side you have the whites. Okay, now if we talk about this vertical line, on the top you have the highlights and on the bottom you have the shadows. So actually if you move the line here all the way to the top, you are giving a lot of highlights, and if you move it down, you're giving a lot of shadows. Now, how this line works, like I said, this is darks, and in this side you have the highlights, right? So if you go here in the middle, like here, not in the middle, but like a little bit here, this is going to be all the shadows. And if you go here is the mid-tones. And if you go here, it's going to be the high tones or the highlights and the whites, okay? So now before we start to move this line and start to create our curves, I'm going to explain you something very fast. You have here, you see this is like an S curve here. You're going to press here and this is going to open. What is this going to do is you can actually manipulate the curves, moving these, sliding from one side to the other. It's not very into detail, but you can use it if you want. I'm just explaining you this very fast because I don't use it. I prefer to manipulate this line and have 100% of control in the line. Now let's click here in the white circle to go back to the main line. Yeah, here on the bottom you see point curve, linear. Linear means this line, but you have here medium contrast and strong contrast. These are like presets. Okay, if you press here, you'll see that the curve is going to be done already for your picture. We go to medium contrast, for example, the picture already changed, and you can see that it's a little curve over here. And you can go to strong contrast, and you're actually changing a little bit more the contrast here in the picture. Okay, I want to do it on myself, so let's go to linear. And now, what is the difference between all these circles here with different colors? Now, the white one over here, that is this one that we're going to use now, it's selected. Whatever we do here in the curves is going to be all over the picture. And now if we go to the red one, as the name says it all, you are going to add reds and take out reds. But you have to understand the color wheel, how the colors work. If you go here, you're going to add reds. You see the picture is becoming very reddish. But if you go to the opposite side, it's not that you take the reds. It's actually you're adding this blue color that is very nice. It's like a turquoise blue. This is because the color wheel works like that. Now it's the same with the greens. If you go, you're going to add a lot of greens if you go up, and if you go down here, you're going to add this magenta purplish color, okay? And with the blue, is blue in one side going up, and then if you go down, it's yellow, okay? A lot of yellow colors, like greenish yellow color. Let's reset this. Now let's go back to this, and I'm going to show you what I just did, how to reset. If you make a point here and a point here, for example, if you come to the point, you see these two arrows. If you right click, you can delete. You can actually delete just this control point, or you can reset all. Okay, let's reset all. You see, it erased everything you did here. Now let's start creating our first curve. We're gonna do this. I always do 3 points, and maybe you are asking yourself, why everybody's talking all the time about this like a curve, like an S curve? What is always just this S curve? And I'm gonna explain you why actually. We talked about the contrast in the picture. So what we want in the picture is to have the dark colors dark and the white colors white, pure and pure, pure blacks, pure whites. If you have this, you're creating dynamism in the picture. These dynamic colors, the dynamic range is better. Okay, so normally when you add a proper contrast, your picture can be already perfect. And then after that, you can go to the basics here and start to tweak a little bit these buttons and start to change the picture and make it very good. So that's why they do the S curve. That's why they do these 3 points, because when you do this, remember I told you these are the darks and these are the whites. I can go down. Remember, I also told you the highlights are on the top and the darks are on the bottom. So we can go down to give darks to the darks to make them pure black. You see, just a little bit. Now, normally midtones, I don't like to move them much. In this case, I'm going to leave them in the middle because I want to show you exactly what the highlights and the darks are doing. And then here, always this plus button, you see like the plus is moving here. When you get close to the point, it becomes these 2 arrows. That means you can move it, okay? So let's move it a little bit. What we just did is where we just add contrast. You know, the whites are better, the darks are better. I can actually add a little bit here, another point here to make it like a little bit like this. And actually now that we have the whites and the darks, we can move the midpoint. I think I can add to the mid-tones a little bit here. And there you go. Of course, you see the sky here is overexposed. I'm going to fix it later with the graduated filters. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave you here on the top of the screen a link so you can see my video. The last video I did about Lightroom is actually about graduated filters. If you don't use it, you have to start using it, okay? And that's it about this curve. I can show you actually here. You see this button here. You can turn off and turn on this effect that we just did. So if we turn it off, this is how the picture was before without the curve, and this is with the curve. Don't worry about these dark parts here and the shadows, that we can fix them later, okay? Now if we go to the colors, I'm not gonna add reds, but maybe blue. I can add a little bit yellow to the picture, but you know what? I wanna add yellow to the midtones, not too much to the whole picture, but to the midtones. So I can go in the middle and I can move it like that. But you see what is happening when I do this. This is moving the whole curve here. It's making like an oval curve, like all the curve. And that's why normally you create 3 points. So when you move it, you're gonna move just the middle like you want. You see, it's just here in the middle, a little bit of this yellowish tone. I can actually go to the greens, and I want to add greens to this part over here, all the trees, but all the trees are with a lot of like shadows, so they are like the dark tones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this and this. You see that this middle point is actually towards the bottom because I want to add the green just to the dark parts. So I'm going to go a little bit, and you can see that now everything is greener. Actually, this is not how I want the picture to be, but it's just to show you how can you play also with the colors. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to reset this. Remember how I showed you, reset channel. We're just resetting the greens. If we go to the blues, actually the blues, I like them. Okay, I'm gonna leave the blues here. So this is my curve and everything. We finish with the curves, and that's basically how the curves work. Of course, now you can come here and you can do this graduated filter that I was telling you. I'm gonna do it very fast so you can have an idea, because actually you have to watch the video with the tutorial of graduated filters. It's crazy, it's a lot of information, it's very nice. Okay, so what I will do here to the top, for example, is to take out the highlights, and you already can see the details in the clouds. You see how easy it is. We can take out a little bit of exposure, we can add a little bit of blue. I'm doing everything very fast, you can just have an idea. Because these have a little bit of warmness, actually I could add warmness, but let's add warmness here instead of blue. A little bit of warmness, there you go. Then shadows, we can take out the shadows, we can actually put some blacks in here, and you can see already that the sky is getting much better. And then to the whole picture, we can do these shadows here, for example. Take out the shadows, you see it's getting better. So actually there's so many things you can do with the picture. The photo is not finished, but these curves, this is basically what I do as soon as I start editing a picture. Of course, if the picture is not properly exposed, it's like very underexposed, first thing to do is to correct the exposure, and then you come to the curves. Of the opposite, if it's too overexposed, I'm sorry for that, because normally this is bad, then you underexpose it and then you come to the curves. Okay, the contrast is going to make your picture much better. So now I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to stay here finishing this editing and these pictures, and yeah, that is it. If you like this video, you know what to do, and let me tell you that I have a Lightroom masterclass with like 4 hours of lessons with everything you need to know in detail, so the link is in the description, and of course with a huge discount. Until the next one.